Hello, everybody. Welcome to an episode of the Comic Source. Appreciate you joining us. I'm really excited about today's episode. I have a couple of comic industry veterans, creators that are joining for the first time. Scott Campbell, artist extraordinaire, and Scott Dunbier, who you may know from Act 4. He'll probably deny this, but I'm going to call him the pioneer of the artist edition. If it wasn't for Scott, we might not have these amazing oversized artist editions that are preserving the comic art we love. So, gentlemen, thanks so much for taking the time to join me and talk about this project today.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Yeah, so super excited that for the first time, Scott, you're getting an artist edition, specifically focusing on the property that you created with your buddy Andy, Danger Girl. So
Yeah.
let's, before we get into what's in the Kickstarter and what have you, anybody that's not familiar with Danger Girl, maybe they think it's just one character, what have you. So give everybody kind of the elevator pitch of the concept of Danger Girl to familiarize anyone who hasn't heard of it.
Sure. It's it's been a little while since I've done this, so I might be rusty. But Danger Girl is the adventures of Abby Chase and her cohorts Sydney Savage, Natalia Castle, and a variety of additional characters. I was inspired by kind of all my loves as a kid, kind of pushed into one idea. I was a big fan of the spy action adventure genre of like James Bond. But then there's also my love of Indiana Jones in there. My love of the 80s G.I. Joe was very present in the book. And then my love of pinup art. So, the sort of the 1960s calendar girl, that kind of aesthetic. And then probably a little pinch of humor. Again, the humor that you'd probably see in an Indiana Jones or a James Bond, just to kind of lighten the mood, but not to make it overly slapstick. And yeah, we had a lot of fun doing this book. It was a lot of fun. It was also probably the most exhausting project I ever did. In fact, it's probably why it took me a while to ever circle back to doing more of it, because I just poured so much love and effort into it that I was a little burnt out for a while there, because it was just kind of my dream project, but also took everything I had at the time to put into that book. But it's fun to go back, and now that with this artist edition, it's fun to go back and even for me to revisit where my head was at and what I was doing at that age. It's crazy to think that this book is now closing in on I don't know, it's like 27 years? I don't know, 26 years, Scott. I don't actually know exactly what it is, but it's something like that.
27 years.
27 years, oofa.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. It's some of the best work we've ever done. But in terms of work, large cast, a lot of vehicles, a
Yeah.
lot of weapons, international locales. We're, having to do research, draw palm trees.
And these were all my weak points, Jace. I kind of took on at the time. I was afraid to draw. I always avoided drawing machines, vehicles, guns, and I wanted to sort of there's. I don't think I knew this quote back at the time, but apparently Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was training to be Mr. Olympian or whatever it is, people said that his calves, he wasn't working on his calves enough. So instead of avoiding it, he wore shorts all the time to the gym so that he would have to work on his calves
Yeah.
to sort of make him a strength. And I think that was sort of with Danger Girl was sort of my thing. It's like, why avoid these things? Lean into them, make them a strength, and hopefully it shows in the book.
Well, let me ask you, Scott, with Jay Scott talking about that, leaning in, and
Yeah.
how this is so much of his kind of best work, in a way. You're going to do a first artist edition for him. And I'm sure, you've done so many of them to pick this, because you could have chosen a lot of different, projects. I mean, Jay Scott's done, covers for Marvel. You could have done Gen 13, like a lot of different choices. What made you want to go to Danger Girl for a first artist edition for Jay Scott's work?
Well, first off, Danger Girl is a project that's very near and dear to me personally. I was the original editor on the book, way back when. And, I think that, especially now looking back at the original series, as I look through all these pages, it's very clear to me that Jay Scott is not only a great pinup artist, but he's a great storyteller. So, obviously to me, one of his main influences are classic Disney animation. And I think that really rings true on the work he did here. So, I love your covers, I love the stuff that you do, but I really do wish you would do more stories because,
Everybody does,
because this is,
including me in a way. Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
sure, because you did such a great job on this. I mean,
Right.
you're such a meticulous artist, and you really dive in and you give everything your all. I mean,
Right.
and that's one thing that we're going to see in this artist edition is the amount of prep work he does for all his things.
Yeah, what's interesting, so I did a little Google search for some interiors because I wanted to be able to kind of show off here. And what's interesting is I didn't find a lot of stuff out there that wasn't, kind of like these. There are interior pages out there, and there are a few, and the quality wasn't real good, so I didn't want to show. But even things like this montage piece, which are amazing, but not necessarily, showcasing J. Scott's ability to show that narrative storytelling from panel to panel and that visual style. Because I agree with you, Scott. Like he's so great. So it's great that we're going to get this. That we're going to get this artist edition to really show kind of the chops that you have, J. Scott. So, but I wonder, I mean, it must have been you and Scott collaborating on choosing what was going to go in. I mean, we've had a lot of Danger Girl stuff. You haven't drawn it all. You've had other people draw some of it. So talk to us a little bit about choosing and selecting what was going in the book, and also your reaction of seeing some of this work that it's been decades since you've done. Was there any like cringe moments? You're like, oh man.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump. Actually,
go ahead, Scott. You go first.
Just for a second. You have to remember, Jace, that an artist edition is at the mercy of what we can find.
Oh, that's true, right?
So, we this isn't like a standard comic book collection where we can put in the entire story. We can only put in what's available to us. And luckily, J. Scott had kept some of the really best pages. There's one collector in particular who had a huge collection that was sort of the base of what the project is. And then just going out, like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like Indiana Jones going out and digging up these classic pages. And it's a work in progress. So this book will not close for a couple of months after the Kickstarter begins. So if anybody has any Danger Girl pages and you want to be a part of this book, please reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and Jeff is also. You can reach out to either one of us, and we would love to get a good scan to include in the book as well.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. So you were going to say, J. Scott, about the cringe moments?
Yeah, no, I mean, Scott hit a couple of those points. I mean, I thought this was an unattainable book for a long time, actually. I mean, I'm a big collector of Scott's artist editions, and I have quite a few of them myself. And it was sort of like an unattainable thing, in my opinion, because I knew the pages had been scattered to the winds. I mean, when you work with an inker, and I've worked with really great inkers, there's always the part at the end of the book where you split up the pages. So holding on to the original art was never even a luxury I could even entertain. So right off the bat, a third of everything I did would go out into the world to be sold. Inkers usually, they want to make a living.
Right. Yeah.
So I understand that.
Fair,
and
yeah.
And we sometimes you'll see prices on the backs of these pages, and you're like, oh, oof, I sold it for that much. Yeesh, that's brutal. But at the time, that's you never really have, especially when you're in your 20s, you don't have the foresight to even imagine something like this. So yeah, like Scott said, it's like much like the pages of the book. This is a treasure hunt kind of going on here, but we did decide that we had enough pages I'd say about a year ago when I ran into a collector friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a long time. And I remember he just had so many pages back in the day. And I just happened to mention to him, I was like, hey, by chance, how many of those pages do you still have that you used to collect? And he was like, well, all of them. And I said, really? And I was like, how many do you think you have? And when he told me the number, I mentioned it to Scott, and I said, well, between those and the ones I have, we're already at a pretty good start. And Scott's eyes lit up, and he was like, oh, yes, this sounds pretty good. And since then, I think we've been able to gather up, several more. I mean, it's definitely going to be a respectable sized book. You're obviously not going to get everything. It would be wonderful if we could get that. But and we put out some feelers and had some good responses to get additional art. I also know, some of the people who also worked on the book as inkers, they fortunate enough had a page or two here, a page or two there. So it's been slowly coming together. It's actually kind of fun to see the puzzle pieces kind of coming back together to piece this all together. And again, the pages I held on to were some of, the most known ones. I had all the prominent covers and 2-page spreads, things like that. So some of the grail pieces of the series, fortunately, I still had in my possession anyway. So I think people will be very excited to see what we've gathered up for this. It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, and again, and when you were going back and looking at some of this stuff, was there anything where you went, "Oh, I forgot that I used to do things that way"?
Yeah.
Things have evolved since then. How was that trip down memory lane?
Yeah, I mean, I think I made peace with that a little while back. Like I think I've often told people that sometimes it seems like 2 years was always the sweet spot or the sour spot, depending on how you look at it, where you look back in your artwork and go, oh, how come I didn't notice that before? So I think I kind of already went through that arc with Danger Girl years ago, and now I can just have pure nostalgia at this point. It's not something where I'm going to beat myself up for something I drew 27 years ago. If anything, there's some things I look at and I go like, oh, that was really cool that I did that. I should do that again, or I haven't done that sort of thing in a while, or something like that. So to me, like, yeah, you of course you change and you move on, but I don't think I'll be pulling a George Lucas and redrawing any of these pages or anything like that. They are what they are. That's what people love, and I think that's great. So.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I love it because some people's style. If you look at their earliest, and you can speak to this, Scott. You look at their earliest work, and then you look at their later. You can really see a big difference. But if you're looking at it, from project to project to project, the changes may be more subtle and you don't realize. But when you look at the body of work, you can see. Well, I want to talk, Scott, about kind of your process. You've done so many of these in a second. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody, as I always do when we do these crowdfunding episodes, that, hey, maybe you love Jay Scott's work. He's your favorite artist, and you really want to get your hands on this, but times are tight. We get it. We understand. The other way you can help out, other than pledging, is to share it on social media. Let your comic shops know. Let your friends that collect know. Let's get this in front of everybody's eyes who might possibly be interested, so they can go and check it out and join and pledge. And plus, the other thing is, like Scott was saying, keeping this open for a little while after the Kickstarter campaign is going to help spread the word. And anybody that does have pages will get a chance to have their pages in the artist edition and have them seen. So kind of a twofold thing here, where we really need to spread the word on social media and let everybody know what's going to be coming, and give them a chance to pledge if they want to. So throwing it back over to you, Scott, talk a little bit about the process. You've done so many of these artist editions, so it's not just tracking down the pages, but in terms of kind of the production, because they're great production values, they're oversized, and you've been doing this for a while, so I'm sure you've kind of learned the do's and don'ts. So give us a little behind the scenes on the process.
The first thing is to decide what I want to do, which artists I want to showcase in a book like this, and then also if I can get it, if I can actually track down enough pages to do a book. In some cases, it's very easy. Somebody like Walter Simonson, he keeps almost all of his work, and so everything I've done with him, and I've done, I don't know, 4 or 5 books with him, that's all come from his own archives. In other cases, you have to, really track it down. There was a John Byrne X-Men book that I did, and it involved a lot of legwork, and it literally took years to accumulate enough material for the book. And it's not enough to just have enough material. With some books, with some artists, I try to really kind of go overboard in getting as much material to choose from. I'll give you an example. The Neil Adams Artist Edition I did for IDW, my last book at IDW before I started Act 4 Publishing. That book kept on growing and growing. It was originally going to be 232 pages. And I kept on getting more material, more stuff, and then it went up to 248, and then I kept on getting more stuff, and I wound up finding more than 350
Wow.
pages of Neil Adams art,
That's
DC
awesome.
pages. And I knew I couldn't put everything in, but I culled it down to what I felt was really the best material. And the book wound up being a staggering 288 pages,
Wow.
which I don't think made my bosses happy at IDW, because obviously the print cost is considerably more. But it also had five foldouts, because I was able to find these great double page spreads and oversized pieces. Um, and then it's a matter of going through and um, getting everything designed. And I work with two great designers. Randy Dalk designed that book, and another gentleman named Shaban Krskescu is designing the Danger Girl book. And then it's just a matter of fine tuning it and getting it to the point where you're as happy as can be. And it's great to work with Jeff or Jay Scott on something like this, because he is such a meticulous craftsman. He wants things to be as perfect as I do.
Yeah, so you guys are simpatico that way. The other thing, going back to this, and also using Kickstarter to go to kind of directly, because I'm sure you guys could have done this on your own and sold it through comic shops, retail, Amazon, that sort of thing. But being able to go directly to your fans, you have such a huge fan base, Jay Scott. But the other thing it allows you to do, stretch goals, do special things, kind of connect with the community. So for either one of you, was that something that factored into deciding to crowdfund this?
Scott? Oh, I felt that. I'll jump in. Sure. What I like most about Kickstarters is I love the communal enthusiasm that they tend to generate. You're right. I tend to think a book. I've self-funded plenty of books of my own, so there is this sense that most likely a book like this probably could happen anyway. But I love getting everybody involved. I love the community, the momentum that happens in Kickstarter, the unlocking of stretch goals and all these different things. I think there's just a way that the enthusiasm just tends to percolate in that environment on Kickstarter that I think, I've only witnessed it. I've never had a Kickstarter. This will be my first participating in one, but I've always, as an observer, I always loved that kind of excitement, and seeing sort of everybody get. It tends to generate an excitement that's a lot different than just soliciting a book or putting it out there, and that's nice and all, and it tends to find its audience. But there's just an energy level, I think, with Kickstarters that I'm excited to participate with, and just sort of see how that plays out as now on the inside, not the outside looking in. So,
what about you, Scott? Any thoughts on doing this with Kickstarter?
Yeah, it's just as Jeff said, or Jay Scott said, it's very exciting. It's very exciting.
yeah.
The anticipation, and all the people that have signed up to be notified when the campaign goes live. I think it's it'll be both nerve-wracking and fun when it launches. And I gotta call out Skybound, because they have done a number of very successful Kickstarter campaigns, including the massive Transformers and G.I. Joe. So working with them, who are have such a keen attention to detail, it makes it even more exciting to me.
Yeah, and I'm glad you shouted out Skybound, because they are fantastic. The whole team over there that Robert Kirkman has put together, the PR people, the editorial staff, everybody, just it's exciting. I work with a lot of those people, setting up interviews and that sort of thing, and it's just fun. Everybody's, we're all kind of rowing in the same direction. We all love comics and nerdy things, and we all want to kind of celebrate it. But the other thing, you're right, Scott, mentioning their success they've had with G.I. Joe and Transformers specifically, like they know how to do this, and they know how to get really great value. So that's the thing, everybody. Like, again, link in the show notes. Go and check it out. If you're listening to this, it means the campaign is live. My thought is it's going to fund probably in less than an hour. Until it funds, I know you guys, you'll feel that little chip on your shoulder. But that's the other thing with Skybound, like I was going to say, is that I'm sure we're going to get a lot of value, right? Like, the higher it goes, the more you get. Doesn't mean, if it goes to, let's say, 100,000, you're going to get the add-ons. It goes to 200,000. You're not personally paying any more, but you're just getting more value for your comic dollars. So again, that's why we need to make sure we get this in front of everybody's eyes, so everybody can see it and everybody can pledge, if they can. So let me throw it back over to you, Jay Scott, in terms of some of the tiers. I mean, obviously there's a tier to get the hardcover book, oversized art and what have you. But what are some of the other things that are going to be exclusive? Because I imagine at some point this is going to be available for retailers, as the G.I. Joe and the Transformer was. But with Kickstarter, like I said, value, where you're going to get, more things that you won't be able to get later on a retail version. So if you guys can, tell us any of the other things that you're going to offer that are going to kind of be unique to the Kickstarter, Jay Scott.
I think I might defer to Scott on this one, because I'm still not entirely sure what I can and can't say.
Okay, fair enough.
Scott might be a little bit more tuned in with that, so I don't want to misspeak. So Scott.
Fair enough.
It might be a good time now to bring up the second book that is in the campaign, and that is Wildsiders, which was a book that J. Scott did after Danger Girl. It was never completed, but he's kept all the original art for it, and it is staggeringly beautiful. I don't want to overplay it, but the work that J. Scott did on it was fantastic. Jace, would I be able to share something?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. I'll in a second. These are big files, so once they're open, I'll share a few things with you. But so we're doing a second book that'll contain Wildsiders. It'll be close to the same page count as the Danger Girl book, and we're going to make it available to the Kickstarter campaign in a way that's sort of unusual. It'll be available as a 2-book set in a slipcase. And, again, Shaban Kreskescu designed some beautiful graphics for the slipcase, and each book will fit snugly inside. There will also be different versions. You can get a signed version of the book. You can get the regular version that's unsigned. You can get the two of them together. You can get a remarked, or actually 2 different remarks, where you actually get J. Scott Campbell original art as well as the signature in a tipped-in plate. So for art collectors, it's a kind of stunning package. And let me see, my files have opened up now.
Yeah, if you want to go, you should be able to share your screen.
Yeah. So can you see that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
So what's interesting about this book is, and J. Scott can talk about it much more eloquently than I can, because he's the person who did it. If you'll notice, all of these pages, or not all of them, but many of these pages have some overlays that J. Scott did, and they were when the book was published, they were holographic images that were added for extra effect. So each of these images, like this shot of Paris and the Eiffel Tower, that was done on vellum overlays, and these were scanned in for this book. And J. Scott meticulously meticulously went in and lined up everything, added these files, and added the tints to them so you can really see the difference. So all of this extra material that's in here, these are all additional pieces of original art, and it's rather stunning, I think. But J. Scott, maybe you could talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, so this is another project that's, I can't believe it's 20 years old, this, this project. But this is a book that I unfortunately did not complete. I'm a little bit notoriously known for this, but for the artwork that was in it, Scott actually was the one who convinced me, I really think I'd like to show off this artwork in a second book. And he asked if I did have all the originals, and I had. It was a period of time where I was experimenting with digital inks. So all the scans in this book are all pencil, so you're going to get a different look than in the Danger Girl books. So everything you're seeing here is pencil artwork that was just very tightly penciled. And yeah, I was kind of a little bit of a out of my mind drawing these overlays on all the pages, because in my mind, the effect I wanted to get with coloring, I could only imagine it being achieved if I gave the colorist these translucent holograms in a separate layer, because I couldn't imagine how a colorist could separate the two layers if they were all on the same piece of art, because that would just be asking too much. And I was just very excited to have this effect, this sort of ghosty hologram technology that was the sort of the crux of the project. And so what you're seeing here, is sort of the best we can sort of illustrate in a raw art book without coloring effects is, what the two different pieces of art that are interacting with each other. And in some cases, there was actually two overlays. You'll get the sense of like 3 layers of art all on the same page. And again, I don't know if anybody ever tried this before or after. I mean, there's been overlays here and there. We see them from time to time, but to do this consistently in a project, I think was pretty unique, and probably partly why I burned out before I finished the project, sadly. But although it is funny putting it back together, I did start to go, now I want to see where this. I got all back into it again. I started wanting to see where this would go. And if somebody out there, I mean, if my fan base do remember this book and are excited about the idea of having this companion piece to Danger Girl, there's also half of issue 3 that never came out in this book. So people are going to see not only issue 3 that never came out, but actually like layouts for the entire issue 3, and then artwork for things that didn't come out. So it's actually kind of a fun for people to finally see some artwork that's never been seen before. Also, too, as I recall, if I'm correct, Scott, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there'll even be a sample page in the book with the overlay on a translucent page, so you can yourself see how the two sandwich together before going into the rest of the book where they're already composited. So it's I think it's going to be fun, very different from the Danger Girl book, but at the same time, if you love the storytelling and my style from Danger Girl, this is another book full of storytelling and panel to panel pages. And I was obviously going a very different direction and a different look, but I think it's kind of fun to see these two books that were not that far apart in time compared to where we are now.
It's funny, showing those pages really, I think, hammers the point of how meticulous J. Scott is with his work, because you can see, as I mentioned before, the incredible attention to detail, and that's visible throughout this entire Wildsiders book. I mean, as much as I love Danger Girl, Wildsiders kind of brought it even to the next level. And what's really interesting is this work has never been seen at all the way it's never been seen, because the comic was so completely different. It was such a massive amount of color and different things all over the place. Here we have J. Scott's pencils. We have the overlays that are merged with the pencils. But not only that, I mean, he mentioned the overlay. There's a vellum overlay at the beginning of the book where you see one of the early covers, and it's just the pencil, and then there is a vellum overlay that's there that you can pull off and put down, so you can see kind of what we're going for. I mean, everything else in the book is merged, so you really see it, but it really illustrates what the process is and what the intent was. Another thing that I wanted to mention, there is so much extra, I mean, this book has the Wildsiders preview story plus this beautiful poster that'll be a fold out. It has all of issue number one, which is 32 pages, and then there's 22 pages of issue number two, and then there's 11 pages of the never published issue number three. But there's also it's kind of crazy because J. Scott drew this in essence three times, four times if you count the overlays, because you have breakdowns, and the breakdowns will be in the book, and then the layouts will be following the breakdowns, and following the layouts will be the preview story, and then you go into breakdowns, layouts number one, breakdowns, layouts number two. It's so much work, and then the amount of character designs that J. Scott did for the series. I mean, he drew. I mean, how many character designs did you do?
Well, it's funny because Jace with Danger Girl, Andy and I were really proud of that book. But what I learned a lot, even more so than when my work on Gen 13, was I realized whatever I did after Danger Girl, I really wanted it planned out. I really wanted to plot it out, much like a movie where you shouldn't start shooting your script until you know what the whole story is.
Right. Yeah.
In Danger Girl, we had a rough idea, but we kind of just were so excited, we just kind of jumped in, and then we're building the train track in front of us, like most comic books are in many ways. But with Wildsiders, that was the first time I really was like, I really want to know where everything is going to go in advance. I want to know what we're laying seeds for that are going to pay off at the end, and have that everything just feel really tight. And I think what you'll see probably in the work that Scott's referring to is there was a meticulousness there to just sort of like make sure that this was just a really thought through idea. What I didn't anticipate was how much that part would exhaust me. and then other life things kind of happened around there where the project was delayed and then ultimately, unfortunately, never returned to. So in some ways, it's a curiosity book, but the artwork, there is a lot of artwork. I was even surprised how much artwork I'd done on the series. And again, as Scott said, because I have all of this artwork for Wildsiders, the book is a comparable size to the Danger Girl one where we're finding the artwork as much as we can and stuff like that. Unless there's another windfall, of course, of Danger Girl art we find, they'll be somewhat similar in size. But it's kind of fun to see these two as companion books, though, because I think it definitely represents a chapter. The two books are almost like bookends of an era where I was doing interiors pretty regularly. So it's fun to sort of like be able to see that all in one place.
Yeah, I mean, not like I wasn't planning on getting it already, but now that I'm being told that I'm going to see never before published work of yours, that's amazing. Because for me, the reason that I love that you do these books, Scott, is because I really love being able to see the process and the textures. Not that I don't enjoy seeing the finished product with colors and what have you, but looking at those unfinished pencils or just inks. You can see so much of kind of the work that these craftsmen are putting into the sequential art, and I just love that. So yeah, seeing never before published art, and I don't want to gloss over this because it is so important. You mentioned it, Scott, J. Scott, you don't do. It's not like you're at convention sketching, right? Like you don't do a lot of. And these pages, you mentioned how expensive they are. So this could be kind of the one chance, everybody, to get some original art from J. Scott by getting one of these remarks, more of an affordable price as opposed to trying to get one of these pages because there's just a finite amount. We know J. Scott's, doesn't do a lot of interiors. Who knows if you might ever do, interiors again. So there's a finite amount. Your fan base is huge. These prices are just going to keep going up, everybody. So yeah, this might be your chance. So again, go to the link in the show notes, go check it out. Obviously there's going to be a lot of stretch goals and what have you. Hopefully we're going to hit some of those. So definitely check it out. And like I mentioned before, let everybody at your comic shop and all your comic fans know about it. So thanks so much for taking the time, guys. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with the project. I'm sure it's going to fund quickly, and I'm sure there'll be a little nervousness until maybe, I don't know, 15 minutes goes by and it does fun.
Don't jinx us.
Yeah, but I do want to throw it back to each of you one last time. Anything else you want to share with our audience? Any last thoughts? We'll start with you, Scott.
I guess just if you're a fan of J. Scott Campbell's work, then this really is the book, of all of his things. I mean, I think it's the one you really can't miss if you love his art. It's a completely different experience. You're going to see Campbell's work in a way that you've never seen it before.
Yeah, and maybe I should have asked you that, J. Scott. I mean, this isn't a way, because again, you've never done an artist edition before. This isn't a way like being a little more vulnerable as an artist. You mentioned you were able to let it go, quite a while ago, go back and begrudge or whatever. But still, this is a little bit more raw. So any kind of thoughts about that, and then any final thoughts as well?
Oh, well, I mean, Scott knows that I've never been shy about showing my sketches and sort of behind the scenes. I'm thrilled to always show that stuff because I want to see more of that from the artists I love. Sometimes I feel like sometimes my biggest disappointment is when an artist puts out a sketchbook and it's all their finished stuff. I'm like, come on, guys, this isn't your sketches. Come on, like, you're a little shy. You don't want to show the blunders. I want to see the raw stuff. So no, I'm a big proponent of that. But I will say this, Jace, this is not only my first artist edition. This is my first Kickstarter. So guys, don't embarrass me. You gotta show up. You gotta show up and support this thing. I mean, it feels real bad if this doesn't fund. If this doesn't fund, I mean, I'm not gonna. I'll run for the hills. You won't see me again. I'll be gone. So if you want more artwork from me, you want more books from me, show up and make sure that this gets funded because we want to do more of this kind of thing, and I want to see that the support is there. So I mean. Skybound, they did Transformers and G.I. Joe. They killed it. We can't like this can't be embarrassing. We have to make sure this fun. So come through for me, guys.
Yeah, let's show up for J. Scott, everybody. He's such a fantastic creator. He's been his comics have been a part of our lives for so long, and I can personally vouch for when I've seen Jeff at shows just how great you are with your fan base. You're so appreciative of everybody showing up. You're so humble about how talented you are, and you're really one of the good guys in comics, I'd say. So thanks for that. On behalf of your fans, I'm going to say thank you for that. It's always so fun.
Oh, shucks, Jace. Yeah.
So I'm going to remind you guys one last time, share this, let everybody know. It'll be out on my social media, obviously. But yeah, let's show up for J. Scott, and we're not only that, we're also showing up for ourselves, right? Because the bigger that goal, the bigger that funding goal is, the more stretch goals and the more stuff we're going to get. So we're all helping ourselves, as it were. So, well, again,
make me work hard, make me do all those remarks. Don't let me off the hook. If you guys show up, I'll be working hard drawing these things for days and days.
Yep. So. And also one last reminder, everybody, as Scott said before, not going to close until a little while after the Kickstarter funding period ends. So you may have a shot at late pledging, but don't count on that. But the other thing that will allow you to do, if you have any of these pages, please reach out to J. Scott, reach out to Scott Dunbier, and have your pages included. Have your pages included so we can all see them. Because that's the other thing about collecting original art. I'm not a huge collector of it because I just can't afford it, to be honest, but man, I want to share my stuff because I know there's other fans out there, so I want to see their original art. I want them to see mine. It's such a great community. It doesn't make sense to go buy pages and you're the only one on the planet that has the original art for that particular page that tens of thousands of people saw in the book, but you are the only one with the original. And to your point, J. Scott, seeing it warts and all, but don't hoard it. I mean, I want to share that with everybody, and I think most people that collect original art feel the same. So again, if you have pages, everybody, please reach out so they can be included in the book as well.
And if I could just say one thing. Fans, so many art fans and collectors over the last 12, 13 years have been so generous in letting me scan art for all these different artist editions. And, without those collectors, it would be virtually impossible to do as many of these books as I've done. So, truly, they're owed a big thanks. And speaking of which, if you do give a page, you will be listed in the book in the special thanks, and you will also receive a copy of the Danger Girl book.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, no.
How about that?
Yeah, you need no other reason than that, everybody. Yeah, you definitely do have
on.
pages. Yeah, please reach out. So, again, guys, thanks so much for taking the time. It's been a real blast chatting.
Great. No, thank you, Jace. We appreciate the forum and the chance to get the word out.
Thanks a lot, Jace.
Yep. And on behalf of Jace Scott and Scott Dunbier, I want to thank everybody for listening, for joining us, whether you're listening on the audio-only feed or checking us out on YouTube. We really appreciate it. Remember, link in the show notes. Just take a few minutes, go and check it out. If you're not familiar with Jace Scott's work, you're in for a real treat. So click that link, go and check it out, and pledge if you're so inclined. So that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. We appreciate you joining as always, and we'll talk to you next time.